Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading, and today is January 13th, 2025, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, watching the U.S. markets sell off, but first, no major economic events scheduled for today. So starting out with the Forex markets, we're watching the major pairs, that's including the Euro, the British pound, selling lower versus the US dollar and making those new lows for the year. Now looking at the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ both sold off, as mentioned earlier. Now looking at commodities, oil and natural gas actually moved the other way. They actually gapped up and they had a little bit of a rally. We're going to take a look at that. And looking at the stocks, it's really changed and mostly selling off. However, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin remains unchanged. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. Here with the Euro USD, and we are breaking out lower, 102.11-ish level. Now, to really give this some perspective, you got to zoom out a little bit and go to a weekly chart, and there we are. You can see that we are on supportish level. I mean, this is between here and 1-to-1 is supportish level. I mean, there's not much more historical data than that. I mean, even if we go to a monthly chart, seldom have we ever been at this level from since 2002. So with that said, this is really a very, very interesting place that we find ourselves. Okay, if we get to this area, even to 192.94 versus the dollar. Okay, so keep this in mind. All right, it's in a steady decline. I wouldn't chase it, but at the same time, you know, if you do see an opportunity to get in, definitely get in. Now GBP USD is doing the same thing, and it's doing it a little bit more aggressively. Right, it's at that supportish level which we've had before, whereas the euro is not. So keep that you know, very, very present, because if we do breach this 121-ish level, we could definitely see ourselves at testing 120 and then even lower than that if we get to there. So that's something to consider as well. Now looking at the Canadian dollar on its highs, okay, so everything is trading in normalcy in terms of the weakness versus the dollar getting very strong here. Now looking at, before we get to the Dow Jones, looking at gold, it did rally a little bit higher, okay, to 26.91, okay, but the big moves are really in crude oil. Look at that, a nice move to $77 a barrel. We broke our 200-day moving average. That's really major as well, and we're getting closer to the 200-day moving average on a weekly, which is significant as well, at about $80 a barrel. All right, so that's something to consider as this is closing it in. And when I say consider, I mean, you know, keep it on the radar, because if it does sustain itself in that momentum, we could still continue going higher. Now, looking at natural gas, we pumped up last week. We had a big gap up to 430 and then sold off as soon as that happened. Now, we've had this a couple of times where we had a nice gap up and then a sell-off. Now, the really filling in the gap is a 395, okay, so it could get to there still. So keep that on your radar as well. Now, looking at the U.S. markets, a decent sell-off. Now, the Dow Jones, fell off its bed. Okay, you could see that right here, right? It just happened towards the morning. The market opened and it just sold off. It didn't recover. Now, it is making new lows, all right? And so, alternatively, for this month, we are net negative. So January is a very important month because it does set up the tone for the rest of the year. So keep that in mind as well. And looking at the NASDAQ, also selling off considerably. Now we look at the stocks, it's across the board, all right? If we look at JP Morgan, it sold off, not big, but it sold off. Now looking at Tesla, did break it lower here at 4-hour chart. You could see that it's consolidating at this 395. Not a big move down, but nonetheless, it did shifts lower. Now looking at the really big boys, the Apple did sell off significantly here. Okay, if we look at a 1-hour chart, so this is almost across the board, but there are some still pockets of some strong stocks that did not sell off so much. All right, so keep that in mind as well. And lastly, NVIDIA selling just a little bit lower here. So there might be an opportunity to buy, okay, because at this stage it sold off, but it didn't sell off like the market sold off, and mostly because of some fears in general. Now looking at Bitcoin, didn't do much, okay, really unchanged. It's between that 91 and 99-ish level, okay, just at its lower range, but it's still there, okay? It's not making lower lows here and consolidating at the lower end, which may mean if there's a catalyst to move the markets higher, it might be one of the first things to go. This is Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.